Hi, I'm Dawn Montefusco, and this is Write Because It Matters. And today we have Flora Bowley with us. She's an internationally celebrated painter, teacher, author, and inspirationalist. She's the author of Brave Intuitive Painting. You can find her paintings around the world in numerous art galleries, on album covers, and in international public spaces. And today she's going to talk about her journey as a writer and as a painter. Hi.
Hi there.
How's it going?
Great. Happy to be here.
Yes, it's always a pleasure. Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey as an artist first? I think that to some degree, we, especially in America, are enthralled with artists that actually make it, you know,
Right.
and we're always so curious, you know, how did they do it, and were they painting since birth? You know, is it something that happened later in life? So just a little bit about your journey as an artist.
Sure. Yeah, I'm definitely one of those artists that maybe not since birth, but pretty close after that started painting. It was just always my thing. You know, I was always surrounded with art supplies. Thankfully, my parents were cool like that. And I was encouraged in that way. And I was... it was something that came easy to me, you know, it was kind of the thing I was good at, I guess you could say. And so, you know, I went all through high school as the art teacher's pet and, you know, went into college definitely knowing I was going to study art. However, I did not think at that point when I was like an 18-year-old that I could make a living as an artist. Like that was just not in my...
Well, we're not taught that.
We weren't taught that. Like I didn't know anyone that did that. It was just like, well, I'll be a graphic designer, or I'll be like an art teacher, or something like that, like something creative for sure. Yeah. But it was actually just a couple years into college that I started really taking painting as like my medium, and then you know I had that influential teacher who was like, "You're a painter," and was like really like encouraging in this way. And he was a real life painter, and you know, he was actually just teaching for like on you know filling in for somebody. So he was a painter, and he was like, "You're a painter," and I really took those words to heart. And I was like, you know what, I really do feel like this is my thing. And so I started having these little shows in coffee shops, just like you know wherever would hang my art, I would put it up, and I started to sell paintings when I was like in my early 20s, and I got it in my head, in my stubborn little head, that I was going to be a painter. And I mean, had I known then what I know now, like, I probably still would have, I still would have, but it was, you know, it's not an easy road. And I think that's why that infatuation exists, is that it's not an easy road. And so you know, my story is that I lived really simply. I really dedicated myself fully to this one particular medium, even not just like arts, but painting. I developed my own style. I was also, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, you know, one of those people that I think you are too, like we just think it's kind of fun. Which is a real blessing when you're trying to do something that you love and make a living at it, is that I just kept putting myself out there, like had a newsletter back before even like internet, you know what I mean?
Yes. I do, actually.
And then like had my, you know, I got a website as soon as you could get a website. It totally sucked, but it was there. And like, you know, I've just been doing it for a long time now, honestly. And, you know, I started, by the time I was like 30, I was making a living as a painter, but barely.
Right,
Because again, it's freaking hard to sell paintings for a living. But I was doing it, I was squeaking by, I was living simply, lived with like 5 people, you know how you do it. And I got to be in like my mid-30s, and it was interesting because I realized that my dream job of being a painter actually wasn't ending up to feel like totally fulfilling to me.
Wow.
Which was a really major like stop in your tracks and go like, oh my god, I need to totally reevaluate.
Right.
And I had no idea what else to do. I mean, I had been a yoga teacher, and I had been a massage therapist, so I'd been in the healing arts, and those were really interesting things to me too, but I definitely wasn't like wanting to abandon painting. I was just like, I feel like intuitively there's something else here. And so I started talking to people, which I always think is the best thing to do.
Absolutely.
Like talk to people you trust and love, and I just said, you know, I think there's something else and I don't know what it is. And one of my friends was like, what about teaching painting? And it had literally never even gone through my mind, which is crazy to me now to think that. But I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so she wrote a blog about me. She had a pretty well-known blog and mentioned that I might start teaching painting. long story short, I got kind of inundated with invitations.
Wow.
Because I did have an audience already.
Yes.
Just for the painting.
Totally.
And so it was this total sign for me that was something that, was beckoning me forward, if you will. And so I got one of those invitations was from this art retreat place on the East Coast.
Right.
Yeah, in New Hampshire called Squam. And I'd never heard of it at the time, but now I understand it's like a pretty big deal place to teach at, whatever. And so I showed up, taught my first workshop, had no idea what I was doing, but I brought all these aspects of myself in, like the yoga and we had a little ceremony, and it's like a total body, mind, spirit experience for me. And so that's what I brought, and people loved it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And 1 week later, I got a call from my publishing company.
Oh, that's...
I was still on the East Coast even when they called, and they were like, "We would love you to write a book about this." And I was like, "Oh my God, what?"
Did you know the publishing company beforehand? I mean, how did
Not really.
connection happen?
No, I mean, it's hard now that I know it so well, and I actually have a bunch of friends that have written with them. I don't think at that point though that I really did. I might have vaguely, because they're pretty well known art publisher. But yeah, they had a scout who was at the place that I had taught, looking for like cool new book ideas. And my workshop was, like I said, it was really well received, and people really were kind of talking. It was kind of the buzz of the place that year, So we were doing something pretty different than, we're working big paintings. Free form. And so I said, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to write a book. I don't know how to even like put this in a linear format. Like, it was a really scary thing at the time.
Wow.
So that's kind of my story in a nutshell, like how it went from just being a painter to like now I, so much more of the focus of my business is actually on teaching and sharing. And I still love to paint, but I kind of get to do it for myself now. Really for myself, like where I'm not depending on selling those for money, which is kind of a beautiful thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what advice would you like, just before we get to your book, what I'm hearing is that I love is that you reached out when you were at a crossroads, when you didn't know what to do. And I think with art, with writing, with painting, even with music, artists tend to be secluded. And they really enjoy creating. And sometimes I wonder, I know in coaching other writers and in myself, there's a bumpy road in that transition of, wait, I need to reach out to people and ask for help.
Right.
And now we realize that when you do that, there's open arms to help you. Can you tell us, or what advice would you give to artists if they're at that crossroads to reach out to their communities, to get out of the house?
Well, that's it, right? It's like we get so in our own minds that we can't even see anything. And it's just like in painting, I'm always saying, like, step back.
Yes.
Because you're this close and it's like you can't, it all starts to blur. So perspective is key. And I'm the kind of person who is very connected to community. I mean, that's how we met, right? Totally. I love people. I get inspiration from people. I guess you'd probably call me an introvert, extrovert in that way. Like, I get energy from people. I also love my alone time, but you know what I mean? And I have these pillars of these people in my life who are successful, creative people. And so those were the people I went to. When I was at this crossroads, because I was like, help me see my path. Awesome. And myself, and this friend saw that I could probably be a good painting teacher, so
that's awesome.
Super helpful. Yeah.
So tell us a little more about the book, and so here you are, you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to write this book. What was your process a little bit on that?
Well, it was interesting because simultaneously, when I was like, oh, I got to write a book, I have 1 year, I also started getting flooded with invitations for teaching gigs around the world, which was amazing. Yeah. And I was just like, yes, I'm going all around. And I was on the road. I mean, I was in Australia, I was in Europe, I was in Mexico, I was in Bali. I really was all around, and so I'm learning how to teach while I'm learning how to write. It was all really at the same time, and it was just like this massive learning curve. The cool thing was I had, at this point, 15 plus years of painting experience, and living experience, and yoga, and all the spiritual kind of things I bring into the process. And so I was writing from a place of feeling really confident in the information. like we were talking about earlier, it's like you have to live a while and kind of get some things before you are like, I'm going to write a book, you know? And so I had all that. It was just I think the most challenging part for me was just like how do all of the parts of this intuitive painting process that's not linear, how does that actually live inside a linear book? That was my challenge. And I was literally like cleaning the house one day and these words came to me, and it was let go, be bold, unfold.
Yes.
And that's the subtitle, and it's the structure of the book. The first third is all about getting out of your own way, letting go, being free, like embracing the unknown, all that stuff. Be bold is more of the nuts and bolts of the process. These are the paints, this is some techniques, and like, let's go for it.
Yeah.
And then the unfold is the how to bring it all together.
Wow.
And so once I realized those 3 sections, everything else fell into place.
Nice.
Pretty easily. It was still a big job, you know, writing a book. But I definitely was, teaching as I went. So I would be like learning something in a workshop, incorporating in it, and it was all really fluid.
Definitely. Awesome.
Yeah.
You titled the book Brave and Intuitive Painting. And it's interesting because for a little bit of time when I knew the book came out, I thought it was just called Intuitive Painting.
Oh, yeah.
And then I went and saw it, and I got it, and I read it, and I thought, whoa, it says Brave and Intuitive Painting. Can you just, even though it seems like a very subtlety of the title, can you tell us why the word brave?
Yeah, the word, I have to say that I love the title of my book.
I do too.
It just like nailed it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, that's what it is, because it really is partly, you know, listening in, getting in touch with your intuition, trusting those like innate impulses that we have. That's so much of the painting process, very spontaneous in that way and not premeditated or pre-planned. But then the brave part is like crucial, because it's like you can have all those ideas and you can be in touch with all that stuff, but putting them into action and really doing it it takes courage. You know, it takes like owning your sixth sense, if you will, you know. And so there is, and you know, it's painting, so it's not like someone's gonna like die if you do it. You know, it's like very forgiving, which is why I love it, because it actually gives myself and the people that work in this process the most amazing vehicle to practice in this really safe way.
Oh, excellent. Yes, I see.
These ways of being brave, you know, trusting your inner voice, trying it out, you know. And with this particular painting process, you can actually cover things over, turn the canvas around. Like, it's really, really forgiving. Yeah. And so there's like, it's like if you were working with watercolors, for example.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember in the book you did talk about acrylics first because it's the most forgiving.
It's the most forgiving.
Yeah, so you start with that. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's layers. You let it dry, and then it's like you can do anything and change it. And so it just gives you this playground to practice, you know, being, you know, for some people that come to my workshop, what they really need is to let go more. They need to free up. And so I'm like, cool, we're going to practice that. And that's all over the process. You can do that. But then there's other people that are like, I'm super free, but I don't ever finish anything. Yeah, totally. Or I don't ever make a decision that brings the thing forward. Yeah. And so we can work on that. So it's just really, it's cool. You know, awesome. It works with a lot of different types of people.
Did you use that process as a writer?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh my God, that's been the coolest thing, because I never really was a writer before I wrote the book. And I had to get over I had to let go of my own stories about not being a writer. That was like actually the first thing I needed to do, and just be like, I'm a writer now. Okay, here we go. So there was that, and then just that idea of like trusting my voice but knowing it can change too, because with writing I'm writing my second book right now, and I'm just this morning was like cutting whole paragraphs and moving them around and like it's movable, it's transformable, and I didn't know the whole story before I started writing it. It's kind of like come from the writing,
and that's the brave.
And that's the brave, and so the writing and painting to me are so interesting in how many parallels there are. Yeah.
You're reminding me when you said you didn't know you were a writer, and I think that's funny when people come to me and say, I don't know how to write. And in the book Callings by Greg Lavoie, there's an example where this college professor is leaving, and his little girl says, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, where are you going?" He says, "I'm going to work." And she says, "Well, Daddy, what do you do at work?" And he says, "I teach people how to paint and draw." And she looks and she goes, "You mean they forget?"
Exactly.
So it's
yes, they do.
They do. And then we're writing, and so I don't know how to write. I'm like, really?
You know how to talk, right?
Yeah, we can talk or slog. At least I don't.
Right.
That's a whole other story. Okay, in your book, I'm going to quote this. You say, "Human aliveness is inseparable from creativity, and that we are all artists already."
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about this concept that we're all artists already, and how in your life you see people bloom and blossom, and how maybe this world needs a little more?
Absolutely. Well, like you said in the beginning of our conversation, we're not taught that we can be artists. I think that's changing, which is cool. But I know for like when we were growing up, it was like, it's like, great, that's all fun and good to play with art,
Yeah.
but it's not a real job or whatever. So I don't know. I think of it like anything. I think of it like exercise. It's like if you're not going to go use the muscles, you're not going to get stronger in those ways, And so it's all about showing up and practicing. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen people that have never picked up a paintbrush, or maybe not since they were kids, right? And they start painting when they're like way later in life, and it's like this whole world open. It's like they get access to this whole other world because they are stepping into it and saying, "I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try it." And there's just no reason that one person can be a painter and one person can't. It's like what have you been spending your life doing? Well, I've been spending my life painting. And so I'm a pretty good painter at this point, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And like maybe some things come more naturally to some. I totally get that. It's like some people have a more innate sense of color, for example, but it's all learned. It can be learned.
That's great.
You know?
No, it's a muscle.
Yeah, it's a muscle.
That. Yeah. And when we were little, we got to use them all.
Exactly. That's we were just like on fire with all of it,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you, in your book, talk about journaling. So the painter, whatever medium it is, for the artist to journal. And Julie Cameron in the artist, Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way, she recommends the morning pages, which I love. And but these are for artists of different mediums, and it seems that the written word comes into play somehow. Can you talk a little bit how writing helps painters?
Yeah, there's a few things. Well, one thing I just want to say is that I feel like when we tap into any artistic expression, whether that's dance or music or writing or painting, it fuels it all.
Right.
I think it's all really connected, and I get so much inspiration from other kinds of art forms. So that's part of it. So if you're writing as a painter for your morning pages or whatever, it's like you're just getting like the juices flowing.
Totally.
If you will. But I also, in my own workshops, we use writing. One of the tools where I bring writing in is where we're really trying to come up with our own unique visual language. So shapes and images and color stories that are unique to us. And so one of the ways we do that is that I prompt people through these questions about their life. Like, if you had an altar, what would be on it?
Nice.
Where do you love to travel? What gives you peace? How do your friends describe you? And so then what we have is all of these words that are reflecting who we are. And so how can those words actually then turn into a visual language? It's just an interesting kind of side door.
I love it.
To go in, because otherwise people are like, I don't know what to paint next, And it's like, well, let's like mine our lives a little bit and get some inspiration that's actually really
what I like is that you get that dump from the morning pages, which can be very left brain, right? Sometimes. But then it sort of, I think it kind of brings in the right brain. I mean, you're basically calling on a part of your brain, of your creativity muscles. You're calling on them with the writing process to some degree. And then, I like that a lot. I actually think that it's the opposite too for writers. I think that when I'm going through a coffee table book of beautiful art, or if I walk to a gallery and I just stretch my mind in different ways, I will get words. I will get different words that come that wouldn't have come from just looking at words.
Right. So
so I love the crossover there. That's great.
For sure.
So just everyone loves to know, did you write when did you write? Did you write every day? Every writer gets, I mean, I know I'm getting this question a lot. And So what was your process? What was your basic?
So for the first book, I was on that world tour. So my life was like super sporadic, and I was just squeaking in. Right, I wrote it in coffee shops.
That's great to
all
know, though,
over the
for
world.
the mothers out there and the
yeah. I was really busy, you know, and I just would carve out. I always felt like I needed at least 2 hours, otherwise it wasn't worth it for me to like get into the mode.
Yeah.
So, but when I had like 2, 3, 4 hours, I would post up wherever I could, you know, and write. Now I'm writing my second book, and I'm here in Portland, and life is a little more regular, and I find that the mornings, I mean, it's classic, right?
Classic.
It's like I get up, I do my short meditation, I come right to this table, I don't open my internet.
Before you check your email. That's what I tell
you.
Before you check your email.
It's so key, and you know, it can be a really hard thing to like not do, but I have found, it's like with anything, it's like once you do something and it really works, it's a lot easier to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So for me, keeping all of the internets down for at least a couple hours, and I start pretty early, like I'll be like writing at 7, you know, then by the time 10 rolls around, I'm stoked to take a break and check my email and like walk my dog and do whatever, you know.
Awesome.
But those morning, it's when we're so fresh, you know.
Yeah, and nothing is in the way. It can't get bumped up or back.
There's the distractions to take because email, that's just one big distraction.
They say writing at the same time, or anything, doing it at the same time, meditation at the same time, triggers the mind into the muse comes because you've sort of trained your mind that now is the time.
It's a date.
Now is the time. Yeah, it's a date. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Thanks. We all know about writer's block as writers. That's what we hear a lot.
Yeah.
I have a theory that it's thinker's block. It's not actually writer's block. Our brains just go, "Urgh." I'm wondering, is there such a thing as painter's block?
Oh yeah, that's a thing for us, painter's block. Yeah,
and how do you get out of it? I'm sure that there's similarities there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, there can just be the like, I don't feel like painting thing.
Is that a real excuse though?
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, sometimes it's like, okay, don't force.
Don't force, yeah.
But I think most of the time, a lot of the times I don't feel like painting.
I was going to say.
You know, I feel like, I don't know, hanging out with my dog.
Yeah.
And so, for me, it's getting in action. And for me, that means putting my music on. It means cleaning out my palette, lighting a candle, doing my little stretches. Like I have my little routine.
Yes.
And it means opening my paints and putting my paints on the palette, because then you gotta paint.
Right.
You can't put them back in the tubes, you know? And it starts with just, you know, what I don't do is go to my studio and dive right into a painting that's like three quarters of the way done, because I'm not there yet, you know? So I like to start with paintings that are kind of either brand new, you know, or they've got just a couple layers, and I just stay in that place of like smushing paint. I'm just smushing colors around and like listening to music and then the inspiration comes.
Right. Yeah.
And then I'm just in it. You
That's
know?
awesome.
Yeah, and it's very rare that I get to that point with the paints out and the music on where I won't just keep going, you know?
It's kind of like working out. I've said, you know, get the shoes, get the running shoes on.
Yeah.
Get out the door. Even if you don't, I mean, how many hundreds of times have I not wanted to work out?
Oh, yeah.
But I get out the door, I put the music on, and within about 10, 15 minutes, I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah.
And then while I'm already here,
it's just happening, and oh, wait, I feel good.
Yeah. And it's the memory, I always say to my clients, it's the memory of feeling good. As writers, we love to have written.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
We love it.
Or have painted.
Yes.
As a business owner, now you talked about your entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
How has your book helped your business? Because I think that for a lot of people on the summit, they have one book, or two maybe, and it's been a great way to reach out to the masses. And also, it helps you keep doing what you do. So it's been huge. Huge! I was lucky enough to have my book picked up by Michael's, which is like the mega craft store. And I mean, it might even still be there. I don't even know, but it was there for years. My book was one of the there's not that many books at Michael's. They have like this little book section, and there was my book in the painting section. And I think the cover of my book draws people in, and it's definitely a different kind of book than like any other painting book out there. And so I sold a lot of books. And so many people that
then took my, wanted to take my online course, told me, I found you at Michael's.
Oh, that's great.
And so that was just a big break, you know. And I think, books sales just sort of build on themselves. It's like
definitely.
People tell their friends, and then,
Definitely.
it just kind of grows. So I owe so much of my success to my book.
Excellent. That's really nice to know. I think that, the whole write because it matters, people sometimes think, well, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
And even if it's not, it doesn't have to be a lot of a book. Just something that's shared that you're passionate about. And people want to hear it, and they want to see it, or they want to know about it. Because there are people out there that are there that want you, whoever the you is.
Right.
There's an audience.
Absolutely. I
that's
agree.
great.
Yeah.
And then I think, is there, there's a lot of people out there that are on the fence about writing a book. Is there any advice you would give, or people who get stuck, or what advice would you give any artist out there that was thinking of writing a book and is either not finishing or afraid or contemplating?
Well, the thing that I have seen with my book is that, and I see this because I get tons of emails and feedback, is that my book has really helped a lot of people. It's like a lot of people have, because my process is very forgiving, like I mentioned, and it makes painting accessible. And I think there's tons of people out there that are like, painting sounds great, but then they're like, oh, but painting, it's like linseed oil and like whatever, And so I've opened the door through this book for so many people to discover this thing that is really therapeutic, if you will, in many ways. And so for me, and it's like anytime I start to feel burned out about any of the work I do, I come back to, this is a service, that I'm offering, and the book is a really great way to translate that, whatever it is that you have to share, into a form that can reach a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because it really can,
That's
especially
great.
if it gets out there. So, and then the second piece of that is that through writing my book, I learned so much about myself and about my own process. It's like, talk about having to get clear on what you do. Write a book about it. Yeah. It's like, because like painting's just like, woo, it's very like visual, which is great. But it's like when I had to translate that into words, it was a really good practice for me to really get clear on why I do what I do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. Flora, I absolutely love your book. And I have to say, it's been one of my favorite books now ever. I keep flipping back to it. It's got all these quotes that just make me feel great about being a creative. And now I'm even more excited because you're writing another book you mentioned.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my second book is called Creative Revolution, Personal Transformation Through Brave Intuitive Painting. So it kind of takes all of the process and stuff from the first book, and the thing that I've just been, that I kind of obsess over, that I'm endlessly fascinated with, is how the painting process, like I said, is a vehicle for practicing ways of being in life.
Yes.
And so this book goes into that a little bit more. There's some more personal stories, and now I've been teaching workshops for 6 years, whereas when I wrote that one, I had taught them 1. And so I've seen the process in action.
Wow.
And I've heard the many, many stories of how this painting process helps people with their living process. Yeah. And so that's what the book is about.
I'm so excited for that.
I'm excited. It comes out this fall, 2016 fall.
2016 fall, and the title is Creative Revolution. Everyone keep looking out for it. You also have a free gift that you're offering to everyone who's signed up for the summit.
Yeah, I have a great gift. So I have a new monthly offering. It's a subscription program called Studio Diaries, and it's every month folks get like 7 or 8 videos, which include painting videos, creative exercises, couch chats like this. There's like yoga and nutrition. It's kind of like holistic creativity. Really juicy, tons of content, and it's just $18 a month, so it's a pretty sweet deal. And there's a free one that I would like to offer everybody that's on the website, and they can get a taste of it. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, the link from the summit will go there, and it's at florabowley.com.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's it. I'm Dawn Montefusco, and this is Write Because It Matters. Thanks again for coming.
It was a pleasure.
This is super fun.
It was great.
And we'll see you next time.
Yay.
Bye.